Captain's Log, Episode 62. This week's episode of the Beer Vengers podcast is sponsored by the Beer and Cheese Collective, located at 35-11 Ditmars Boulevard in Astoria, Queens. Make sure to stop by for their special Pride celebration on Friday, June 24th, complete with an LGBTQIA+ tap takeover, live music, a special backyard cinema event, and much more. Enjoy their eclectic array of craft beer, artisanal cheeses, and specialty grocery items at the Beer and Cheese Collective. New name, same great place. This week, Captain, Huck, and the Beer Wonder welcome Ryan Lefevre, beverage manager for the Beer and Cheese Collective and curator of every sponsored pour since we started sponsored pours in November of 2020. Learn how they went from sipping Labatt's Blue in upstate New York to managing the beverage selection at Ditmars Boulevard's finest craft beer marketplace. Also we, and by we I mean Beer Wonder, come up with a really cool Beer Venger name for them. Remember to like, star, and subscribe whenever that feels appropriate. And send us your emails at thebeervengers@gmail.com if you have any questions, suggestions, or if you just like hearing us talk about you on the show. And now, without further ado, please enjoy episode 62, Pride and Pilsner.
Well, we're the Beer Vengers, Beer Vengers, Beer Vengers. We're the Beer Vengers.
Welcome to the Beercast, everyone. Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Astoria, Queens, I am Captain Porter Brownstout.
And coming to you from an undisclosed location in Fresno, California, this is the Pale Male, Hophead Huck.
And coming to you from an undisclosed location in the County of Kings, it is I, the Beer Wonder!
And we are... the... Beer... All right. Yes, that was an interesting one.
It was harmonic.
It was.
It
was
intense.
I was just meditating a little while ago. I don't know, I had a little bit of at least helping people meditate.
I think there's a crystal in here now.
I don't know if that affected it all, but that was a fun one, guys. I feel very centered. Well, as I said, welcome to the Beercast, everyone. Very exciting to have our Beer Vengers with us, as well as today we have a very special guest Beer Venger from the Beer and Cheese Collective.
Oh my gosh.
Ryan Lefevre. Welcome, Ryan.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be beer.
I will reveal to the world that it is possible that Brian has been a strong curation factor in the Beer Vengers drinking experience. Let's put it that way.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's Ryan with an R,
yes.
Not Brian. That's okay though. People do that all the time. But it's okay. Yes.
I think there was about a year where I called you by someone else. I think I called you Aaron for a while because I got the two of you mixed up.
Yeah, the other buyer. Yeah, there was. I mean, it happens. It's not. It's not an uncommon thing. So.
I felt terribly embarrassed when you correct. I'm glad you finally corrected me on it, but I felt terribly embarrassed that I've been saying it wrong for as long as I was.
You know, I've been front of house in the bar and service industry long enough that I'm used to just playing that kind of social judo. You know, it's just hey, you know what? You're tipping me well. That's kind of the important thing.
Yes. But Beer Wonder is being coy here. Yes, Ryan is the one. Every time you hear that, well, I'm not going to play it right now because you can hear it plenty right now. Is the whenever we have a sponsored pour that was curated specifically by Ryan. So this is Ryan's first physical appearance on the show, but their influence has been felt regularly on the show.
For sure.
But we got a really exciting show. We're going to hear all about Ryan's origin story. We're gonna have a special talk a little bit about it's Pride Month. This is our last episode in June, and it's about time we had a full-on Pride episode. But before we do any of that, I think it's time to get to the pours, wouldn't you say?
I'm glad you said that because, since I'm back now and I went first last week, I think I'll just go first again, if that's okay. with everybody.
Oof. Yeah, you've
See-
I don't know what to say.
Yeah, this cross country
I don't know what to
move,
say.
Huck, has really seems like it's boggled you just a little bit. We were making such good progress,
I think
And
he's
now-
being affected by the heat, really.
That's probably it. It's over 100. We're gonna let it slide this time, because as any good beer venger knows, it's only polite to let our guest go first.
Of course. Yeah, so
I
so
see. I
Ryan, what exciting beer do you have today?
So today, from myself, I'm going to be pouring Acceptance from Wild East Brewing here in the city. This is an
Ooh.
alt beer.
And is that
so
one
I
you
guess-
brought from the Beer and Cheese Collective?
Yes, this one is from the Beer and Cheese Collective. It is among
Which of course makes it a
Sponsored pour.
incredible. Thank you. I guess I just pour it then on camera.
Yeah.
let's
Hold it
take
up
a
so we
look.
can
Hold it
examine.
up there.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, and I love that glassware you've got there. Kind of a nice little taper to it, but yeah, hold it up a little higher so we
Hold
can
it
take a
up a
peek at
little higher.
what's
Yeah,
going
let's
on.
put
so we
that
can
in
see
the
camera.
camera frame.
Oh!
Oh, that looks great.
Classic alt beer, good head retention already. It's there. This look like it's got gonna be nice and foamy there.
Excellent.
Nice
Perfect
tannish
pour.
color. Well, Ryan is a professional.
Yes.
I have like a card and everything that says I am. It's crazy. Yeah, so I got this. It's a delicious alt beer. I've actually tried it before, but I will I assume we do all the pours first and then we taste.
Well,
or
I mean,
how
you
does
can
this work.
taste it. We will have an official toast, but
I didn't
I don't
know.
want
I
to.
mean,
I don't want to
like,
keep you
listen.
thirsty, Ryan.
Ryan
I'm not
doesn't
gonna
want to
be
be
gulping
rude.
over a microphone while you're talking.
All right.
I'm not
All right.
thirsty. I'm fine.
What do you want to hear from their beer wonder now?
Yeah.
Well,
Let's see. What do you have there, Beer Wonder?
Me? Oh my goodness! Well, what an honor, Huck. Thank you so much.
Trying to make up for my mistake.
I know. To the shock of all of our listeners, today I will be sipping on a.
Sponsored pour.
That's right. Another sponsored pour from the Beer and Cheese Collective, curated by the one, the only Ryan Lefevre.
Exactly, and I believe that this may be our first Norwegian beer, because this is from a brewery called Oslo Brewing Company in Oslo, Norway. It is imported through another brewery that is in Normal, Illinois, which seems only normal. And what I've got is a passion fruit
Yes.
blonde ale coming in at a charming 4.7%. Check out that can art. This O with the line over it seems to be their logo. I've seen a number of other beers in that, but they've got the rainbow in there. So you see it's ready for Pride. And on the back, they've got even a little pretty picture of someone with a heart and a lovely Pride flag as well. So seems like a good Pride beer brewed
very
especially
nice.
for Oslo Pride. So let's take a look at this one and see what it has got. I've got my Beer and Cheese Collective glass, naturally.
Nice.
Very goldeny. Yep.
Almost had a tangerine color to it.
Oh yeah, it's got a good cover. It's pretty heavy carbonation there. Those bubbles seem to be dissipating pretty fast. So I don't know how much is going to happen there, but oh my gosh, the passion fruit is jumping straight out of the glass and into my nose. Very excited.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. Well, I feel like to continue with the theme, I should go next.
Fine.
Ever that cool, Huck? I didn't mean to jump the line. I feel like we didn't mean to put you the back of the line since you tried to jump to the
it's
front,
only
but it
appropriate.
actually seems like
Yeah, well.
that's how we learn. Yes. So I have yet another.
Oh my goodness.
Sponsored pour.
Tried another sponsored pour from the Beer and Cheese Collective. Ryan gave me this beautiful beer from Long Island City's own Fifth Hammer. It's called Control X. We're not entirely sure why it's called that. It has a little bit of a keyboard there, and there's a passport on there, so I guess it's for traveling. This has some nice little rainbows on the can, but if you look at it from a certain angle, it almost looks like it's
Oh,
the
cool.
dark side of the moon as well. So works on so many different levels. It is a raspberry lemon wit beer. Control X at 5.5 ABV.
Oh, well.
So a little bit outside of my usual wheelhouse, but I'm really looking forward to this. Fifth Hammer does some nice stuff. Here we go.
Yeah, Fifth Hammer's lately been my favorite local brewery. They have put out a lot of really excellent brews lately.
Oh, yeah. This guy's
Yep.
looks like pink grapefruit coming out of
So
there.
Is it
Nice
bluish?
and dark for a
Is
wit
there
beer,
like
too.
a reddish or purplish color in there? I can't quite tell.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's
Definitely
got a
touch
very
bleach,
white
right?
head. Very nice. It
Hmm.
looks interesting as heck.
And I've always loved the can art. Always consistently good can art
Always.
over there. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you've been very patient, Huck. What do you have there?
Well, I'm out here in old Fresno town, and I was unable to come up with a Pride beer. I think I could have found like maybe I saw some Bud Light Pride cans, but I know you didn't want me to come on with a Bud Light on the show. So I do have this nice beer though, and it's called Pinch Harmonics from New Glory Brewing out of Sacramento. This is a West Coast style IPA. And going with the captain's theme is also musical themed. And I have the old school glass here. I'm going to hold that up right.
Oh, there we go.
Nice.
From the
Got
prior
old
name.
school beer and cheese
Yes.
glass. There we go.
Beer and
Look at that.
cheese.
Not bad.
That's a
Gorgeous pour.
historical piece now.
Yeah. Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
so. We won't tell Rick about this.
It's got that darker brown that I'd expect
Yeah,
out of a
yeah.
West Coast IPA. Really beautiful.
Yeah, it's
good head.
got
retention on
a
it.
even though it's West Coast, it's fairly hazy. I mean, it's got a nice
It's-
color to it. All right, well, there you go.
All right. Well, Beer Vengers, raise your glass.
Here we are.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's very nice. Very tart.
This is just very much the classic alt beer, nice and creamy. Bit of bitterness on the back end, that just old school Dusseldorf style.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So it's a
What is the name of that one again, Ryan?
Acceptance, which is an alt beer, as I said. So,
Yeah.
it's alt beer is about 5%, 5.5% typically, top fermented ale. It's lagered for a few months. So it's cold. It's matured at lower temperatures, which is why it tends to drink like a lager, even though it's using what we would consider to be an ale yeast, which is why it gets that kind of fruit notes right on the top.
Isn't that the same way a Kolsch is made?
Yes, Kolsch's and alt beers are actually in Germany. They're the opposite sides of the Rhine, and they have a rivalry. There's like a contextual like traditional, like if you're a Kolsch drinker from Cologne or an alt beer drinker from Dusseldorf, it's like it's like a sports team rivalry kind of fun thing. And I think there's a festival somewhere that specifically is like all of the Southern Rhineland alt beer brewers competing against like the Northern Rhineland Kolsch brewers or something along those lines. But yeah, and that just comes down to the fact that they were doing lagering practices, but they only really had one kind of yeast back in the 19th century when these styles were being, I guess I wouldn't say pioneered, but codified, regionally developed into something recognizable as distinct from every random village's beer that was being made, however they were making it, but yeah, so it's dark on the SRM scale. It's pretty lagery in general, malt forward with big stone fruit notes on the nose and on the top, and it has a very clean finish with a classic old world hop bitterness. None of the citric, no acidity in like a citrusy sense. It's all just like straight kind of like piney beer bitters all the way through. I get a bit of bit of currant on the pop, maybe like I said, some of those old school hop notes too, pine, just herbaceous, almost kind of gruit, lingonberry kind of things. It's delicious though. I would drink this every day.
Excellent.
Good description. Is this a part of the proceeds goes to some sort of charity for this beer? Is that right?
Acceptance, I
imagining that?
believe. I know this. I had it in my notes.
Not to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. And the funny thing is, I can remember Control X is P Flag.
Wild East is a fantastic brewery in Brooklyn. We love
They are
them
really,
so much.
really are. And actually, so their sales lead is a former coworker of mine, Holly Deal, who was.
Oh, yeah, we know Holly.
Yep. So she was a bartender in the beer buyer for Milk and Hops Chelsea alongside Mike Levinson for a number of years, and they did a fantastic work curating the program there. I didn't get a chance to work directly with her for very long, only when she was briefly at Beer and Cheese Ditmars here. But she always did a great job, and she's always been a fun person to have a beer with, for sure.
They got a great staff over there. Really cool people, because we've done our beer tours there, and just always friendly, always great service, and the beer is outstanding. And they have the side pulls there for their lagers. Side pull of the Czech style taps, which are just delightful and fun, and give you just that little bit of difference in the mouthfeel for your beers. So, cheers to Wild East. I miss them.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't find exactly where it is, but typically most of these are going to various things. Our sales of it during our Pride event, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, are all going to the Okra Project.
Oh, cool.
So that'll be. But I'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about the event. So.
Yeah, that's something to look forward to for sure. How is that Norwegian beer?
Tell us more about that.
I'm curious to hear about that.
It's an interesting one. I mean, it definitely smells intensely of passion fruit, but it doesn't quite have the same amount of passion fruit. It's not quite as prominent because there is sort of like a little bit of a hot bitterness underneath it that kind of comes out at the very end. It's pretty light. It's kind of tart. It's an easy drinker. It's 4.7, so that's what you'd kind of expect. It would make a good, if you were out. I mean, I don't know how hot it gets at Oslo Pride. I don't know quite what that experience is like, but if it was a warm day out watching a Pride parade or marching in a Pride parade, this would be a nice sipper for it. It just kind of goes down nice and easy. But Ryan, I'm curious because this is our first Norwegian beer that we have come to through you or through anything. How did this come into the Beer and Cheese Collective's existence and then, I guess, into your life?
How did this particular beer, Oslo or Oslo Brewing in general? I mean, I don't get a lot of Norwegian beer coming through, especially post-COVID. My access to imports is a lot more limited than it used to be. And in most cases, I mean, what you're usually experiencing is, if you're getting something unusual, is there's layers of curation happening, because I'm making selections for the shop, but the sales representatives that I work with through importers and distributors and even individual breweries are also, curating what they're presenting to me and what I'm coming into. In this case, this was through the wholesale distribution team at Tap RM was highlighting some new products that were coming through. They brought me some samples. I tasted the ones that looked interesting to me and that I thought would do well with our client, with our customer base, basically. And as it happens, I always like to put out some beers that resonate with Pride for Pride Month.
Yeah, of course.
And it looked great, and it suited the style needs that I needed to fill at the time, and so it came in. I more or less sample every single beer I stock. Not every last one of them, largely because I'm not the only person who orders them. I have a coworker, Sarah, who also helps me and works with certain portfolios. So sometimes she makes some selections as well, but 99% of the time it's just the taste. I try the beer. It's a good beer. I feel proud to sell it, so it goes in. I mean, there's some other considerations, cost, availability, things like that, but I don't sell anything I wouldn't drink myself. And in the case of this one, honestly, the can was a big draw. You pointed out what a nice can. That's gorgeous art.
It's beautiful. Yeah,
great name.
Pretty cans sell beer. I mean, it's a little like I want to show you how all the sausages are made a little bit, but and I'm sure this will not be much of a surprise to you. But there's definitely a certain amount of mercenary mentality when it comes to selling. Sort of like a niche hobbyist product like craft beer, which is despite not being as niche as it used to be, is it's a comparative thing. It's it's still only, I think, 15% of all alcoholic global sales of alcohol or something along those lines. It's or just shy of that number. Wow. So we're still talking about something that's going to have to appeal to people who are looking for something fresh and new, and you know, I have slightly higher standards than most, but it's gonna be good stuff across the board.
You've got Beer Avenger standards.
You do.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, and I have to
yet to
admit,
fail
I
us.
do not often go out and looking for the imports because there's such a wonderful, cornucopia of delight with American craft beer. But generally speaking, when we've had them on the show, it's because you gave me one. Like we had that one from Seven Island, that Greek beer that was so delicious and unusual.
European brewing culture is very different from American craft brewing culture, and there's only a handful of breweries that I import that I feel like approach it from the angle that American brewers tend to. In Europe, it is a I think I've described it as it's like a singular perfection act, right? So they don't necessarily as often try to vary on a style. They have the style, and I mean, you even see that in the laws, things like German beer purity laws and things like that, where it's really about taking something that is very iconically associated with the region and just making it better and better and better and better and better, which can mean you'll get some absolutely incredible beers, some of the most delicious things you'll ever taste. But there's not always a lot to talk about. You're just like, this is a very good Munich Helles that is pretty much like, I mean, because there's diminishing returns, right? Like you can only make a beer so perfect, and then there's only so many levels past that you're going to go. In America, to contrast, everyone kind of does everything. Everyone's trying to reinvent the wheel all the time. They want the newest way to... the newest marketing term you can slap on a can to make people go, oh, that's something I haven't had before. I want that. And some of it is fabulous and makes, and is incredible work being done by master brewers. And then some of it's like, some of it's double dry hop pale ales.
Yeah.
Which is just an IPA.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you double dry hop a pale ale, you just made an IPA. That's all it is. So if you're telling me that you've double dry hopped a pale ale and you're calling it a pale ale, that's fine. You can put that on your can. It's an IPA, and that's fine.
Technically,
IPAs are
Well, they have
delicious.
two of the right letters there.
Exactly.
It is two of It's Huck. I just want to say you showed some very admirable restraint there, because I know you can rarely hear the term German purity laws without saying. Go ahead.
There we go.
We should we need a soundbite for that.
We need a Reinheitsgebot soundbite. We probably do. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, Huck, why don't you say it in the clear for us right now?
Reinheitsgebot.
All right.
There we go. Now it's
definitely
it's
cut
cured.
that out later.
But speaking of making an IPA, Huck's got one today. How's that tasting for you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like I said earlier about the idea that it's a bit hazy and it does have a West Coast vibe, real piney kind of nose, but it's also super tropical. So I think this is what I would call a hybrid West Coast New England style. It's like a hazy West Coast. They make it with El Dorado, Citra, and Mosaic. So I'm definitely getting those Mosaic hops on the nose. Those are a strong aroma. But the balance of the three, it really gives old school, new school, and by old school, that's not very old, the West Coast IPA. But I think it's a good combination. It's a nice, and like Ryan was saying, like this is a very good version of an IPA, American IPA. Yes, it's very nice, very fresh, strong hop flavor. And super drinkable. It's got a nice clean finish. I dig it. I'm not the descriptor that Ryan is, but I like it. I like a beer.
I like the
I like
beer.
a taste.
Like
I
the
like
beer.
a smell. I could be
Yeah,
could be
this one-
looking. Think about Ryan's name. That he's very good with the descriptions.
Yes.
There we go.
Tie
There's
that
a lot
in.
happening there.
It's funny. I could say, I said this. I think I've said this to you at the bar, Glenn, Captain. I'll get there. Whoever you are, mystery man.
Porter. His name is Porter.
I compare the experience of being a professional in the beer industry and just being someone who's engaged with craft beer for so long to a quote I think I heard. I think it was Bruce Lee who said, like, and he said like, when you're a kid and you don't know anything, you know, a punch is just a punch and a kick is just a kick. And then you start becoming a master and you start training and you learn about side kicks and flying kicks and roundhouses and you think about straight punches and chops and you have all these things. And then eventually you become a true master, and a master knows at the end of the day that a punch is just a punch and a kick is just a kick. And sometimes I feel like that can be true about beer a little bit. It's, you know, when you're in that certain nascent stage of being engaged with beer as something more than just like, oh, I have a beer, you learn to appreciate it and talk about it in specific ways and in concrete ways, that you find yourself going eventually like, well, this has all of these things and I could talk about it this way, but also it's just a good IPA. Yep.
Yeah.
Sure is a good one.
Buy it again.
Like, I would drink it again. I would buy it again. And
that
sometimes
really is
that's
the
all that
standard.
needs to be said. Yep.
I would say that this wit beer is it's more than that. I mean, it is that,
Okay,
but
here we
also it is very unique. With the flavor profile, I think it's just the perfect combination of raspberry and lemon, because if the lemon dominated, that might be a little too much. I think the raspberry dominates, but the lemon is very present. It's very refreshing. It's very delicious. It's easy drinking. Thank you for selecting this one, Ryan. It's really good. Have you tried this one?
I have. Yeah, it's quite good. I kind of feel it was a little bit more of I think wit beer is, I mean, it is a wit beer, and it's very light, but it's tart and fruit forward enough that I would almost want to call it a sour. But
it treads that line.
But it is still a fantastic summer hot weather beer.
Now, I know you were saying that this particular one is some proceeds from it go to a PFLAG. Did any of us figure out, because I was trying to look up before we started here where the Control X thing fits into it. I looked it up, and I guess that is the shortcut for cut, I think.
Yeah,
for
for
like
cut.
cutting and pasting.
Control commands on keyboards are sometimes referred to as hammer commands, so I thought maybe it's some reference to Fifth Hammer. I don't know, though. I couldn't find anything further on that. They have a lot of very strange references in their beer names. They have a lot of Dungeons and Dragons themed beers that don't have any like further context beyond that just being the name of the beer, so I don't know exactly where. If I had thought ahead of time, I could have like emailed Kuzme and found out like why he names the beer, but I didn't think to do that.
Well, that's all right. Well, we will certainly look that up and address it on a future show. And if any Ryan can reach out to the brewer, or if anyone who's listening wants to reach out to on our social media to explain to us why this beer is called Control X, we will be happy to hear it, and we will share it on a future show.
Yes, send us a letter.
A letter, yes, snail mail. I don't think we've ever given people a snail mail address.
Do we have a PO box?
You can just drop it off at the Beer and Cheese Collective, where you should be going anyway.
35-11 Ditmars. Yes, exactly.
Someone will get it, I promise.
Yes, 35-11 Ditmars Boulevard in Astoria,
Boulevard.
Queens.
Yes, exactly. Just ask for Ryan. Now you know. Or whatever their Beer Venger name will be. Which reminds me, I do feel like we have come to a very important part of... I know Ryan is like a beer professional and all of that, but today something very special happens. But to get to that naming session, we're going to have to go back in time a little bit.
We are. We need to really learn how Ryan started with beer and his, whatever version of the history they want to give. And so therefore, we are going to be hearing Ryan's...
Origin
Yes, we want to hear Ryan's origin story. Ryan, how you got started in beer, the earliest memory you feel like sharing with us there, and moving beyond that.
All right. So I would say I didn't really work in beer until I worked at the Beer and Cheese Collective, to be completely honest. I mean, in terms of my first craft beer was probably in upstate New York, where I was in college at Geneseo, and that was in the early 2000s, and it was the kind of the very beginnings of craft beer becoming a craze. And at the time, we mostly, as most people did, drank Labatt Blue Light. as our beverage of choice. But I remember very distinctly me and my best friend, who were housemates at the time. That's the my friend whose wedding I was at last week when I was out of town, Glenn. We went and we got, they sold growlers of Rohrbox beer. Rohrbox is a small microbrewery in Rochester, New York. I don't think they distribute. I think it is just a tap room. I don't even know. If they still...
Ryan, I want to clarify, before you had that, had you enjoyed the Labatt's Blue Light?
I mean, enjoyed is a strong word. Do you enjoy brushing your teeth? No, but you do it every day.
No, well, it's interesting because we talk to a lot of people about the origin stories, and when they encounter beer that is less than stellar, some either just grit their teeth and bear it and work their way until they find better beer, and other immediately, like Beer Wonder story was, he liked it, or he did not like his first encounters with beer, and it wasn't until years later when he had good beer that he finally started to really begin.
Correct.
But you had accepted Labatt's Blue Light for the time being.
Again, bear in mind that this is in Rochester, which means your options are, globally distributed macro brews or Jenny. Which is, I always laughed as I go to Barclays Center and spend $14 for a can of Jenny Cream Ale, and I laughed and I said, if you wanted one of these, just go lie in a ditch somewhere outside of Rochester, New York, and someone will throw one to you eventually. Like, the can will be half empty, but you'll get a beer. You will get one. No, we had this. It was a Scotch ale. I remember very much. Oh no, it was a blueberry ale, and then a Scotch ale. I think we got the Scotch ale later. Yeah, and we just got it on a whim. They sold growlers out of the cooler, and it was really good. I guess I didn't really think too much of it. I think I could describe my relationship to alcohol in those days as being a means rather than an end unto itself. But I was a youngin', so I'll let that slide as far as I can.
Statute of limitations are out, so I think you're fine.
I made some friends through some of the other clubs I was involved in, and met some folks who had more of a investment in good beer. I don't even know if they used the term craft beer at the time. They were just like, oh, like good beer. And one of whom I'm still friends with, and he is a notorious like stout basement stalker kind of craft beer guy. Like, he's got the massive collection of aging cellared bottles, and he really only drinks like stouts and like adjunct heavy stouts, like,
sounds like somebody I know.
Like, yeah,
it sounds a little familiar.
My partner and I were actually accommodated by this person and his wife in terms of a place to live for some time, and I drank a bunch of stuff then that he had, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't really think too much of it. And then I got hired at the time Astoria Beer and Cheese to run the kitchen. That's what my background was, in cooking and food, and just being adjacent to the product. I started I have I guess I could say a natural disposition to like over-invest myself mentally in anything that I get even slightly interested in. And in this case, it flipped to a career. So I drank the beer and I got to know it. And then I started taking courses, and then I got the gig to buy the beer after my predecessor moved to Nevada in 2016. So,
yeah, shout out to Nigel.
Nigel, you hear this? You're my boy. Nigel's still a very good friend of mine. He taught me a lot of stuff too. So,
Ryan, as you've taken this journey, have you come to any specific styles that are your favorites among them?
I'd say that I am these days all about a good Pilsner. I think that is a beer that standout quality pills is something that is truly transcendent from like the rank and file. IPAs, I love IPAs. I love every style of beer, but sometimes IPAs have just this wide spectrum Pilsners, I find, are either just forgettable or some of the literal finest thing you will ever drink.
They do run that gamut, don't they?
I mean, most things do, but I always feel like those are the ones that really jump out to me. So, yeah, my tendency these days is to drink nice Pilsners, German styles in general, Kolsch, obviously like an alt beer or something like that. I think I tend to like old world styles that have pretty clean profiles and are generally on the drier side. And that's about it.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I found there's something you had mentioned a while back. It was on Facebook or somewhere, where you're talking about how there are certain beers that, because there's such a wide array of choices, and everyone wants to get the hot new trendy thing and check it off their list, that there are certain very good reliable beers that we just sleep on. Mm-hmm. That like, oh yeah, not that you ever stopped liking it, but you forget to buy it, or you think, well, you're just so focused on getting the new one. And I think the one you had mentioned that point, it might have been, was it the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale?
Yeah, I mean,
or was it something else? Or was something else by
there
then?
is
might have been Celebration. I'm not sure.
Well, Celebration, I stock Celebration in the store unapologetically every holiday season.
Yeah.
Nice. I think that is one of the best late season wet hop ales. I hesitate to even call it an IPA. It's closer to something like a amber or a red ale. They sell it as an IPA, and I mean, it is pretty aggressively hop. But yeah, I mean, so it kind of comes back to what Huck was leaning into earlier when we were talking about whether an IPA is just an IPA or is it something more elaborate that we can classify just so. And I think that there's definitely times where it's like, man, the reason why you can buy Sierra Nevada Pale Ale at every grocery store and every gas station, every bodega in this country, because the beer is actually really good. It's just good. Like, it just tastes good. It's nothing exciting. You're not going to have your mind blown. It's not going to be a new experience, but it costs $11 for 6 bottles, and you're going to enjoy every drop of it. So, yeah, I think that's something classic. Worth thinking about.
They're the ones that are credited with starting the West Coast, or what we call the American IPA.
Yep.
With that American Pale Ale, they released it in 1981. So they were way ahead.
Sierra Nevada. They also own almost all the hops.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Yep. Most if you're starting a new brewery, most of the time you have to purchase because they pre the craft beer craze, there was actually very limited hop growing operations happening domestically. Right. So they were mostly imported. And at some point in like the early 2000s, Sierra Nevada purchased like most of the commodity futures on hops. So a lot of times new breweries literally have to buy, do commodity purchase, unless it's like a new strain or something like that. But a lot of like the big popular West Coast strains are all essentially owned by them.
I didn't know that.
It's very smart. I'm not necessarily describing that completely accurately, but it's something along those lines. They basically because whatever they did, they bought like a production commodity future with regards to like a couple of different common hop strains. So like they basically, when you go to buy hops like on a production scale as a new brewery, a lot of times you're actually buying it via a futures trade through Sierra Nevada.
Interesting. Oh, yeah. I like that.
California gives us a lot. You're buying your hops from Sierra Nevada, and you're buying your yeast from White Labs in San Diego.
Yeah, more than likely.
Those hops generally come from the Yakima Valley in Washington and Oregon and Idaho as well. So,
I'm sorry, I should have just said West Coast instead of California.
Well, California is not the best place to grow hops, which is interesting because, maybe in the north. But they're only grown in certain areas well. And New York is a great place for it. We need to get more. I don't live there anymore, but I know their hop production is growing.
Yeah, that's what the whole farm brewery law is about, to encourage hop production in New York.
And there's a push for this, what they called Smash, single malt, single hop, New York Smash brews, which were a big thing for a couple. That's kind of tapered off a little bit, but that is still a big thing. A lot of breweries were pushing products that they were called it was New York Smash, single malt and single hop, all New York grown product.
Yeah, I had that at Big Alice, or was it Five Boroughs? One of them had a smash beer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Five Boroughs. Yeah,
A couple of them did one. Omegang did one. I know Arrowwood Farms did one that I had. I want to say Captain Lawrence that I brought through. There was a few others as well. They did a bunch of county level subsidies where I grew up in Niagara County. So Niagara Escarpment's mostly wine country now. But a bunch of people got essentially buyouts to like rip out some of the vineyards that were overproduced. Like there was just no need for the extra production because it's all small scale stuff anyway. And they were growing hop strains there. So
wine overtakes beer once again.
Yeah, right.
Or
Yes,
excuse me, beer overtakes wine. That's the direction we're going.
It'll be one way or the other.
Exactly. We just trade back
I
and
do love
forth.
I do love single hop beers when you can isolate that hop and really get a flavor for it. Single malts, I'm not as tuned in to the differences in different malts. I know that, especially being a lager drinker, that I should be a little more tuned into that. I guess I'm tuned in as far as like old world, new world, but because of the original German and Czech malts are so specific. But I've got to work on my palate. Although as you get older, your palate starts to fail more. So.
Oh yeah. I mean,
it could be too late for the huckster.
You never know.
Well, since this is a Pride-themed episode, I don't think we should wait any further to talk about this great event that you're having coming up at the Beer and Cheese Collective, Ryan, to celebrate Pride. Yeah. Obviously, you're celebrating it all month, but you're having a special event. Is it the 25th? Is that right?
It'll be the 24th, the Friday. I think that's the 24th.
Oh, Friday. So the 24th. Yeah. So it's Friday the 24th. So if you're listening to this on the Monday we're released,
it's Friday.
You have ample time to make plans to go to the Beer and Cheese Collective's Pride celebration. And what exactly is going on that night, Ryan?
So it's pretty simple and straightforward. It's not a ticketed event or anything. It's just open to the public. We're going to have half a dozen brews on tap that are either brews made to support Pride charities, or brews that are actually produced by our queer brothers and sisters. I have listing items from the Rainbows Everywhere, from Torch and Crown. I'm going to have gay beer from the Gay Beer Collective. We're going to have Dyke beer on. We're going to have some the Pride brews from, I'm going to have the Acceptance, the one I was just having, that's going to be on. I think I have the Inner Boroughs Mad Fat Pride in 2022, which is a fantastic IPA. Oslove, I have a keg of the Oslove that's going on. We're going to have happy hour pricing on all those, and pretty much every red cent that we make over cost on that is going to get donated to the Okra Project, which is a mutual aid charity based out of the city that focuses on producing food and material support for Black trans youth. It is the only national charity that is completely helmed by Black trans folks in general, and it's food focused. So they actually produce like culturally relevant meals specifically for isolated or otherwise potentially endangered Black and other trans people of color. So it's a fantastic charity. They do some amazing stuff. They have been doing a ton of work, and so we're going to support them with this event. We're also going to have some live music. We got Loser Cruiser in. It's a local band. It's fantastic. And then
yes, I just saw them the other night. They were having sushi.
Yes,
walking home and on Ditmars, and they were having sushi there.
Astoria, it's just a small town in the middle of New York City. Yes,
accurate.
And we have we're gonna have basically we're doing a community mural for Pride. That I'm gonna have a thing to make buttons. So make buttons, Pride buttons, and put it on the mural or keep it for yourself. And then we're gonna have a movie night after the sun goes down, we're going to be showing. I am gonna flip a coin between whether or not I'm putting on the Birdcage or To Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Either great films to watch this time of year,
perfect.
or any time of year, honestly. But
Any time of year, really. But I
sounds like a
mean, listen,
blast.
we're gonna be thematic. Let's be thematic in a way that's fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's that's the plan. It's pretty straightforward event, but I think it's going to be a good party, a good time to show your pride and show your support for the LGBTQI community, and those of us in it. A lot of the staff at Beer and Cheese are on that spectrum. It's just part of the reason why we've thrown a lot of our energy behind it. So that's what we're doing.
And so are they going to be going on from openings? Going to be starting at like
The beers will be available
5
from
June?
opening. I think we're going to start the band at like 6 o'clock or so, probably, and then the movie will be on after that when it gets dark enough. So
Excellent. So you have like a projector set up in the backyard.
Oh, that's gonna be great.
Excellent.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna actually hopefully start doing movie nights of some kind. I think that's for the future.
Yes, that sounds like fun.
a little preview of that on our little show. That's always exciting. We've had a number of people preview things for us, so thank you for that. That said, I did just hear a crack occur, which makes me think it is distinctly possible that Huck may have a second pour.
Well, yeah, I think we
You know
need
what's
to
funny?
delve into
I
that.
came here this afternoon to get drunk on the podcast, but I actually we're getting our new car today, so I have to go get. We are going to get that this afternoon, so we're happy about that. But I think we got room for a little bit of a hobo. This is called a Hobo Pilsner.
Ooh,
This is from Dust Bowl Brewing, who I've talked about. One of my new favorites out of Turlock, California. I've not had the Hobo, so we're going to give it a shot. You all know that I used to be obsessed with Lord Hobo Brewing out of Boston. So now I get my own little hobo out here. Nice. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't pour it on camera. Nice little color to it. A little bit darker than
that looks nice.
usual pills. And you see the little hobo and his dog there?
Looks like a robust Pilsner.
It looks,
there you go.
Yeah, it's robust. It's about 5.3%. So not a lazy pills. Let's take a taste.
not a lazy pills. This pills showed up. This pills came to work.
Pills showed up, and it's good. It's actually very nice. I give it. There's a distinct, and Ryan knows this. So there's different styles of pilsners. German pilsner, obviously the original Czech, and there's American pilsner. And the American pilsner is like Bud, or Miller Lite or whatever.
Right.
So I feel like we have
Pretty much all the macros,
There's
right?
another category that isn't really being talked about, and that's the craft pilsner, the American craft pilsner, which I feel like has a slightly hoppier quality than a German pils or the Czech pils, unless it's otherwise stated. I think they use American hops and American malts, so this falls in that category as far as I can tell. Got not too hoppy a nose, but a nice, I would say a little richer flavor than the traditional European pilsner. Super quaffable, great lawnmower beer, as we say.
Quaffable.
Yeah, I like it. This is one of my faves out here. Dust Bowl. I'm digging the Dust Bowl. They're the ones that had that 10% IPA that I got at the ballpark last month. So I'm digging on Dust Bowl for sure. All right, thanks guys for letting me get that in there. That's why I came.
Hobo without the Lord.
Without the Lord.
It's the hobo of the people.
Where do we stand on hobos, Ryan? It was like a craze for a bit, and then Lord Hobo lost its shine.
The beer, the actual brewery Lord Hobo
out of Needham, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a launch event for them a few years back. I think it's just most things. It's beer. Craft beer has got a lot of leverages a lot around exclusivity. I think so. There's a thing where I think a lot of the shine comes off when a brewery that was previously seen as sort of difficult to access becomes more accessible.
Right.
And
that's
that is
definitely what happened.
unfortunate. Yeah. And I think that's what happened with Lord Hobo. The quality of the product didn't go down at all. It's just, I can't, you can't, if you can't sell it on the strength of like, well, this is like, oh, Lord Hobo, like, oh, we got boom sauce in, like,
Yeah.
you gotta get some boom sauce.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, I can get boom sauce at Tops. Like, I just,
I think also a problem they had was that they would have shelf life. Those beers would sit on grocery store shelves for too long, and they got a bad reputation in that way for having old beers.
That was a consequence of the IPA craze. The IPA killed itself. I mean, obviously, it's not a poorly selling style by any stretch of the imagination, but relative to 4 or 5 years ago, it was such a prolific style. I mean, to the point where I did the math out. I mathed out my sales charts one year, I think 2018 or 2017 or so, and I literally sold, quite literally sold 4 times as much IPA as any other style.
Wow.
On draft, especially
4 times.
I literally 4 times, like, as in I would move through 4 times in the same period of time. I would rotate 1 Pilsner keg. I would rotate 4 core IPA kegs.
Good Lord.
That's just counting like a core IPA, like a 6.5% basic, American IPA. If you add in how much I would also sell of something like an extra pale and other hop forward profiles, like an adjunct IPA or like a sour IPA or a double imperial, it's probably even more than that. That fell off dramatically. It's still not. I mean, it's still fairly the most popular style, I'd say, but and I chalk a lot of that up to the fact that it became so prolific that most of them were garbage after a certain point in time. So because
you got to be careful.
Every brewery that opened up in New York City that I'm familiar with, like ones where I know the brewers like by name, they would open and they would all of them swear on their copy of the BJCP handbook that they were going to be a Belgian yeast forward brewer or a lager brewer, or I mean, LIC Beer Project installed like a $35,000 cool ship. Like it's like the biggest cool ship in the city. I don't even think they freaking use it anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Because eventually you go, okay, I can spend 6 months perfecting this delicate, stick of alt beer or lager or saison or something like that and have it sell like 4 packs. Or I can knock together an IPA in 3 weeks and have it sell out in a couple of days. But the result of that was that, it became ubiquitous and everyone was trying to make an IPA, even if the brewers didn't have the expertise to do so. So
I think Wild East has clung to their roots pretty well so far. I know but they do make IPAs and they do sell them, but they're really, their reputation is good enough that they are also selling the lagers. And I see that too, like with Grimm and other breweries, that they sell the lagers, they sell them out. And it's like, that's a sign to us, we want more of that. We want a Vienna lager. We want to have an alt beer. We do want have more variety. So this pendulum is moving, but it's moving fairly slowly.
Yeah. Since 2018 or 2019 or so, I think, honestly, I chalk it up to the general, the fall off in like the broad level popularity of craft beers. So the people who are still coming in and buying this stuff are the people who are actually invested in enjoying something good. It's not just the hype train anymore. And as a result, it's been fantastic. A lot of the newer breweries are sticking to their guns. They're focusing on styles that aren't just IPAs. The IPAs that are coming out are of a higher quality. They're fresher. They're better tasting. But, the part of the stuck on the grocery store shelf thing that I was thinking about that kind of, I thought, spoiled the IPA image was the fact that IPAs you really want to drink in like 3 weeks. Yeah. So, that's ridiculous. Like you can't, no one who's operating a Whole Foods is going to be like, I'm going to only order product to go for 3 weeks and then get rid of it. Like it's just not. So
I was in a,
and that's something that never happens to me with stouts. Nice thing about anytime you're getting a stout, like it only improves with age.
About 5 years or so after that, I think you're gonna.
I guess so. Like, well, there's one point where you had one that we had on the show that I actually bought there. It was what was the name of it? It was like the Ghost, Space Ghost, like it had like ghost peppers in it. And like I remember when I got it and brought it up to the counter because it looked so, and it was great. But Lane warned me, it's like, yeah, I don't know how long that's been around.
There's some. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to get into.
He said we just found that in a corner of the basement and put it out there.
In a bottle.
And I got it and had it. Yeah.
So that's good.
It was from. Oh, I can't. It was somewhere in Illinois. Yeah, it was in a big bottle.
Didn't we try that at one of our parties?
It was. I had it on the show, and then I bought another one and brought it to one of our get-togethers, and it was but it was funny. Like Lane was warning me, like that's been here for a while. I don't know how long it's been here. I'm like, I'm taking it.
I
anyway.
would love to.
No regrets.
I would love to get you guys to just try some. Like I have stuff that I have no business still sitting on. I have product that I didn't order still in the shop.
Oh my.
Like there is stuff that's just been languishing in there. I found a case of some Japanese beer that the brewery doesn't exist anymore. I have no.
This sounds
idea.
like a great idea for a theme.
Yeah, I was going to say
I
an
shouldn't say this
off-beer
stuff live.
thing.
Rick is gonna think I'm like bad mouthing the shop. Like no, it's just there's weird stuff that sat around forever.
I think Rick only listened to the episode before the one he was on, but I'm not sure about that.
Well, Rick, if you're listening, hi.
Hi, Rick.
I think I have some multi-year-old Taurus Bulba floating around. I don't know. I'll have to maybe I'll start doing that as a segment. I'm just gonna pass some of this off to you, Captain Porter, and you guys can be like, this is a 2013 vintage.
I love that idea.
Greek lager or
Decade of
something.
I like that idea a whole lot better than the idea of just doing a macro show that you guys keep bringing up.
No,
I got my Bud Light line
Brian,
locked and loaded.
they keep saying we need to have a show where we just drink macro beers.
Shotgun
I'm like,
Saturday.
I think that would be about a 15-minute show. Yeah.
Go ham.
Brian
on.
knows what's up.
Only if we shotgun them. That's right.
That's right.
Right. But now, Beer Wonder, I think you had a few other. We talked about the Beer and Cheese Collective Pride celebration. I think you had a few other notes about.
Yeah, there's been. I mean, there's a lot going on, and if you think about oftentimes the way that the queer community exists, craft beer doesn't really tend to sit in the wheelhouse of what people expect. Beer blasts, as they're known, are often like Bud. But I did want to give a quick shout out to an event that has unfortunately recently passed, which was, of course, Hop Culture and New Belgium, who held the Queer Beer Festival. I believe this was their first live one, because I know they did a virtual one last year. It was in Washington, D.C., and it included all sorts of great breweries that we know, sort of celebrating, pride, but also sharing some of the beers that they do to support the community. And there was a big focus specifically this year, of course, on trans individuals and making sure that they're well protected. But a couple of our favorites, at least from the New York City area, were there. Notably, I followed along with our buddy Mr. Ruthless. If you follow him on Instagram, his name is actually Orlando from Single Cut, who was actually there pouring Single Cut's beers as a part of it. And our buddies from Other Half were there as well as a ton of other ones. And so it was kind of cool to see like craft beer, which I don't think is super always associated with the queer community, kind of getting its due a little bit more, which is kind of great.
Nice. Is there a lot of Pride celebration? Last week, I feel like the last time we had you on, Huck, you talked about how you're having a little bit of a culture shock being there in Fresno. That it's not exactly the same kind of political climate that you had living on the Upper West Side of Manhattan.
Not quite.
So I'm a little curious. If Fresno, what they do for Pride?
Well, California is obviously a left-leaning state, one of the classic ones, and but it's a big place, and so there are large sections of California that are conservative, and I happen to live in one of them. The city of Fresno does lean Democratic, but the surrounding area is a farmland. There's a lot of And my particular area here in the north is sucked into a Republican district. So there is a lot of evangelical Christians here. There's a large Mormon presence. There's a lot of Christianity coming at us, and that is often met with they often do not they don't like the gay and lesbian community for some reason, and but the Pride Parade here has been going on since 1991, and it's actually because we are in fairly close proximity to San Francisco, which is one of the the first revolutionary places of gay pride, and with New York being sort of number one, San Francisco second, and here in Fresno, they have had this Pride Parade since 1991. This is, I believe it's the 32nd annual Pride Parade this year. Of course, the past couple of years they weren't able to have it because of the pandemic. Although being in Fresno, I haven't, since I moved here, I don't know how you guys are wearing masks in New York. This is still happening. I haven't worn a mask except when I went to like a clinic, an urgent care clinic. That's the only time I've worn a mask being out here. So it's not really enforced very much here in Fresno. It's a different.
Well, despite what one might think,
it's a different world.
I was going to say, but despite what one might think from watching the Tony Awards, I actually went to my first Broadway play in 2 years last weekend, and if you go to the theater, everyone's masked. It's a rule.
Yeah,
and some of them are even still requiring proof of vaccination. But in a lot of other places, I'll see like half and half. I mean, it's still required on the subway. Grocery stores are generally not enforcing it.
Yeah.
But I still see a lot of people, including myself, wearing it at the grocery store.
I mean, here it's basically medical facilities. That's pretty much it. And to be fair, there we don't have a lot of cases here, but we could, and of course we did when the pandemic was at its height. But the Fresno Pride Parade is they had an interesting origin when they started in '91. They were actually protested by the Ku Klux Klan specifically, and the Klan went into the streets, and this is the very first Pride Parade. And when they went into the streets, there's an area here called the Tower District, which is sort of the cool area in town, and the Klan was waiting for these marchers, and one kid, 18-year-old man, went up and went to slug. Oh no, he pulled the hood off one of the Klan members. So then it got into a little bit of could have been a confrontation, except that the Dykes on Bikes, the lesbian motorcycle club that was in town, got off. They put their kickstands down and got off their bikes, and immediately the Klan backed up and went back to the sidewalk. They were like, "Okay, sorry, ladies," and so they came again the next year, and the third year of the parade, they decided they're bringing weapons, right? So they. The Klan members were, but luckily the police had been tipped off to this, and what they did was they waited for the lady motorcycle club to go by first, and then they made their move. But luckily the police knew about it and shut it down immediately. No weapons were pulled, and the Klan never came back. But it was for a while they fought against it, and after that, a lot of the resistance was done more in a bureaucratic way, and they would put restrictions on it. So no, you have to get a permission from everyone that lives on this block to have your parade, and they realized, they're not doing this with any other parade, and actually sued the city. And so it went through a lot of work to have the Pride Parade every year, and God love them. I mean, great way to stick to it, because that is really something when the powers that be fight against you and say, "Oh yeah, you can't do this, you can't do that." It's easy to give up, and the people here did not and kept it going. And now today, it's sponsored by several government officials and a lot of businesses around here. So it's a very strong part of the community now. Obviously, a real struggle to get there, and obviously there's still resistance and still work to be done, but it's great to see more acceptance, even though there's still this resistance. But it's an interesting history for sure.
Excellent.
Well, that shut everything down.
Oh yes.
Well, it was an important history to tell, but I mean, it is a downer and an upper all at once. So
well, yeah, I mean, it's
it tells us why pride is still important even in this day and age.
Talking to the pale male, right? Don't hold back. Okay,
exactly.
Don't sugarcoat it.
No, you don't. You let us have it. You let us have it, Huck. You give us all the feelings, always.
Clearly, you picked the right time to move there because you wouldn't want to have been there in the 90s when all that was going on.
Ooh.
But good that everyone paved that trail back then.
Yeah. And they were going to do a
blazed that trail. I said paved. I meant blazed.
They were going to do
that's the expression.
They do a theme every year with the parade, and this year they were going to do a revival theme of Phoenix Rising Parade because from the pandemic, they had to not do it for 2 years. But unfortunately, one of their founders died this past year, so it was actually became a dedication to him and the work that he did, So it was a really nice tribute. They had it at the beginning of the month. June 4th, I think, was the parade. So, Beer Vengers, we're catching up. We're within the month.
We are.
We're there.
Oh, we are. This is going out in the world with a third of the month still left.
That reminds me that we
talked about it last week.
We still haven't. I don't know how much we've worked on this, but we need to give Mr. Lefevre a Beer Venger name at some point here.
Oh yes, we do.
Have we been thinking about it? Oh boy! Oh no, Ryan! We're getting silence. Oh boy!
Ryan's turn. Well,
vague silence.
Well, so for me, we don't have anybody who is representing Pilsners specifically.
Yeah.
And so I feel like this could be a place where you would fill a need in the Beer Venger sphere to truly step up and be the representative of the Pilsner. I mean, we have this hop situation covered by Hophead Huck. Captain Porter Brown Stout took basically 3 styles.
All the styles.
Yeah.
But
I couldn't pick one.
But we don't really have a representative for Pilsners. We have the Saison Kid. We've got OBK.
We have the
bitters,
Lager Lass.
So the Lager Lass. But so I'm curious: does being the defender of the Pilsner feel like a good spot for you?
Heck yeah, that'd just be definitive for me. That would be a fantastic position to be in.
Okay.
I think you just said it, the defender of the Pilsner.
Pilsner defender. I go with that.
Pilsner.
The Pilsner defender.
Pilsner.
Roll off the tongue, but
no, it doesn't quite. We need a P after
Papa
that
Pilsner.
No. Papa Pilsner.
I am
Pilsner
the opposite
Pro.
of that.
The Pilsner Panther, Professor Pilsner.
Professor Pilsner is not bad.
Professor Pilsner. I like Professor because he has so much knowledge.
Yeah,
that's true.
I'm good with that one. I like that.
Wow, who said that?
Jump
Beer
on that.
Wonder.
That was the Beer Wonder. Yeah.
This is my second naming, I believe. I gotta say, Huck, I'm coming for your gig. Okay, I'm coming for your gig. I got OBK and Professor Pilsner. Oh boy, Huck, you've been away too long. I'm glad to have you back.
That's pretty good. Professor Pilsner. I mean, and the double P, if we want to.
It's perfect.
Excellent.
I accept.
Excellent.
Well,
all right.
Professor Pilsner, this is an important duty. You now have to save the world from bad Pilsners. Do you accept this solemn responsibility?
I accept this this duty that has been thrust upon my no doubt deeply fragile shoulders.
Well, it's like they say, some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them.
By a mildly drunk Beer Wonder.
Yes.
Well, I think it's a great name, and I think it is we could also just be the professor, and we could call him Prof P, and we got lots of angles we could take.
Lots of
on
ways
this.
to vary.
And you have educated us quite a bit today, so I do appreciate that, Professor. Thank you so much for being here.
I think it has the style, but also it fits you very well.
Well, thank you very much.
It really does. Good job, Beer Wonder.
My hat is off to you, Professor Pilsner, Prof P. And thank you for keeping the Beer Vengers Beercast in good beer throughout our almost over a year of misadventures. It has always been a pleasure to drink your curations, and I always look forward to seeing what new goodies you have in store for us. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, and I look forward to more in the future.
For sure.
I did want to follow up on a few things that we talked about on the last episode, and also some feedback we've gotten. What were you think I was talking about?
I was going to say the word hookups, but yeah, you go ahead, please.
Yeah, they're not exactly hookups, although some of them are clarifications, so to speak. I don't know. Anyway, no. First of all, I just wanted to thank one of our listeners, AJ, reached out to us talking about how much they were enjoying listening to the show and enjoyed listening to the Beer Ventures while gardening. So thank you, AJ. We're glad you're listening, or maybe watching, because it seems like AJ's preferred way. Well, we don't actually have the video component, but it seems like AJ's preferred way of listening to the Beer Vengers is on YouTube.
Okay.
So maybe at some point or another we'll try and get you a bit of more of a video component there, AJ. Also, last week I mentioned that we'd had Tox on the show before. Mm-hmm. Ryan actually gave us a Tox before, but we didn't actually. The funny thing is, like, when Ryan first started giving us the sponsorship package, it was mostly was just to. So we'd mention them on the show, and then we came up with the sponsored pour. So there are a lot of beers. I try and mention all of them at some point or another, even if we don't have them on the show. But Ryan gave us a Tox beer before, and that was why I associated it. Last week was the first, that Inky Cap was the first time we've had Tox on the show.
Okay. We did drink
also
that
wanted
beer.
to talk.
We did enjoy it.
We did. We enjoyed it together. Mm-hmm. Yes, we had it at one of your gatherings at your previous undisclosed location. Mm-hmm. Also, we talked a lot last week about, we still don't quite know how this pronounces, the brumate or the brumat, or your thing you use to keep your beer cold.
We haven't heard from them, have we?
No. And the funny thing about we haven't heard from them, but I did look some of their stuff up. One of the things that they do is they have a back tap, and that is a backpack that also doubles as a beer tap. Now, also, I mentioned my discomfort with the word koozie. As far as something to describe those things. And Brumat actually has their own special name for them. They call it a hopsolator.
Oh, that's a perfect name.
I can get into that.
I agree.
I've tried it a couple
Although
times.
if you buy it on
the
Amazon,
pool,
Amazon still calls it a koozie.
And they keep the beer cool. It really does. It really keeps it cool.
Another couple quick things we mentioned last week. We were going to the 9th anniversary birthday party of Big Alice. I went to that last week. Had a wonderful time. Had some Nashville hot chicken on a biscuit from Daleview, which Beer Wonder, we have to go there. Taste their beer at some point or another.
Definitely.
Out there in Brooklyn.
Biscuits.
Let's see. And I brought home a specific, really interesting one there. It was called Rule of Honor, which is a barrel-aged dark sour. So that went right in the captain's cellar. So hopefully we'll be having that at some point or another. And also I mentioned on the last episode we had about how I was going to see a show at the Soho Playhouse. Somehow I had forgotten until I got there that it's right across the street from Torch and Crown. So I had a wonderful time, just had an impromptu visit at Torch and Crown and came home with their wonderful, actually I had one there and then I brought a 4-pack home of their wonderful Baltic Porter called Sound Dews.
Yes.
Which actually is named after what the ships that were taking the British ships that would take Baltic Porter to the Baltic region, they had to pay sound dues as part of their tariffs to transport that beer. So that's my weekend beer. I know we're getting close to the end, but did anyone else have any other weekend beer or additional Pride notes? All right. Well, I guess that pretty much wraps everything up.
We definitely have to have the Professor Pilsner back again very soon.
For sure.
More,
yes.
Dropping more knowledge for us. And he's been a wonderful guest. Thank you for joining us.
And
Thank you so much for having me.
And as the captain is fond of saying, but we do mean it sincerely, come back anytime.
Yeah.
And bring beer.
Anytime. Absolutely. Yes.
Well, I'll definitely do that. That's easy.
We know he's going to bring the beer. So.
Yes.
Absolutely. He brings the beer almost every week.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Thank you so much for being here, Ryan. Thanks for being back again, Huck. And I see you clutching your uke, so I guess that means it's time for you to play us out. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
With a beer Vengers, beer Vengers, beer Vengers. With a beer Vengers.